la, let me play with the little flags. Okay. So, I mean, I'm not sure where you want to start, but
From
I guess.
the front.
We'll just move it on back.
Okay. So, yeah, I guess, I mean, I'll just work from the list then. So you've got the buccal funnel, right, this whole area here. And then the nostril, which isn't, well, I guess it's okay on this one, it's right there, right? That's probably one of the easier structures to find, nostril. Then this is the location of the pineal gland, right, which you can see then deep to it in the cross section or sagittal section. The eye is going to be there. Doesn't really look very impressive, but it is. External gill slits are going to be the holes on the outside. And then, well, trunk is just this region, right? So it's not the head, and it's not the tail, it's the trunk. Dorsal fins might be tough on this one, cut in sagittal section, but you guys, I think, would be able to figure out dorsal fins. I hope. Okay. And then the region of the urogenital papilla is just back here. You can see the papilla is right there, I think. Let's see. So, trying to remember if the papilla is behind the anus, or I think it is. So I think this is the papilla there, and then you've got the digestive system coming out in front of it, right? So, everybody good with that so far? Tail. And then the caudal fin is just these two structures here. Tail. So, okay. It's late. We're all standing around a smelly lamprey. All right. So, tooth are just these structures inside the buccal funnel, the hard things. And then the papillae are these bumps kind of along the edge of the buccal funnel, right there. That would be the maybe raised bumps. They're not hard, but they're raised bumps along the edges. And then the buccal cavity would just be this space, right? This most anterior part of the digestive system. And then you're going to transition into pharynx behind that. Cranial cartilages are the hard structures. So you're going to find one there, one there, one there, and yeah, there's lots of flags in the way. But the brain's back here. So if I pull some of the flags out of the way, there's the brain. And then you've got, this is the olfactory sac in front of it, so olfactory sac and brain. But here's a nice cranial cartilage right there. And then there's another one here, and there's another one here. And they're hard, and on the lab practical, unlike zoology, you will be able to poke at things, so you can feel that it's hard. Versus being like, okay. Nostril, we've already saw on the outside. And then this one is tough. It's the nasohypophyseal canal. It doesn't look like much of a canal on this one, but it would connect the nostril, go past the olfactory sac, and go into the hypophyseal canal. So you can almost imagine a line going from the nostril here, but if you don't get it right along the midline, it's not going to show up as well. And it's definitely not on this side. So, hi, are you going to leave?
Yeah.
Oh, okay. Love you. So yeah, so that goes back there. Does that make sense to everybody though? I mean, if you don't hit the midline, it's not going to look like a space. But if you went into the nostril, then you would follow it back past the olfactory sac and into the hypophyseal canal. All right. Pineal gland, we already saw right there. nasal sac. I'm calling it the olfactory sac. I'm sorry. Different versions of the lab manual, but it's the black structure. The brain we already met back there. The tongue's pretty impressive in these guys. It starts about there. It's got some cartilages of its own. And then the tongue muscle kind of runs all the way back here. So tongue goes like all the way back. So I'll move that flag for a second. But you can see the tongue kind of goes all the way back here. So it's huge. So pharynx is going to be, you know, somewhere. So this would be buccal cavity here where it opens up, but then pharynx is going to be in this region here, right above the tongue. And then it's going to split and go. The esophagus is up here, which I kind of cut into, if I can get into the right spot there.
Okay.
So again, if you're off the midline, it's not going to show up as well, but you can imagine that. I know there's tons of flags in the way, but here, I'll take the pin out of the pharynx then. Okay. And we already met, that's the canal, so I'll move that out of the way. But you can follow the pharynx back, right, and then it's going to split. It's going to be the, I think they call it the branchial tube back here, and then it would go up to the esophagus, and so then this dividing structure, that's the velar tentacle. But you have to hit it right down the midline or you're not going to see that. But that's basically where the water would either be directed up through the esophagus or through the branchial tube. Does that make sense? And then we already met, you know, the lingual cartilage is going to be the hard part of the tongue, and then the softer parts are the muscle tissue. There's a cartilage right there that's hard. There's another one. So, but that one's the main one right there. So, hypophyseal pouch we already met, but I'll do it again. There's the nasal sac or olfactory sac. It comes right back here underneath the brain. Right, and underneath the notochord, right there. If I can clear the goo out of the way. Right there. Everybody see that?
Yeah, that's cool.
Velar tentacle we met too. It's this L flag, but it's right there. Separates the branchial tube from the esophagus. All right, and then we're going to go down to the heart. I'm going to move the pin. This is the sinus venosus. It's just that space there. Not very impressive. It's where the blood first drains in the lamprey heart. Then you're going to have the atrium, which is the smaller of the two chambers, and then the ventricle. Pericardial cavity is just the space. So if I can lift the ventricle up, it's just the space here and the space around. That's all going to be pericardial cavity. Dorsal aorta, pink thing, running dorsally. That one's the easiest blood vessel. Ventral aorta is a little bit harder to find. It kind of runs right above the tongue. So I'm going to pull some of these pins out. I'll put them back in. But it's going to run right about there, right above the tongue. So it's going to come, if you know the blood flow, it comes out of the ventricle. And then it's going to come up in these aortic arches here. So it's right about there. I mean, it's not, I kind of stick there.
Okay.
So, but that's where the ventral, again, if you're not exactly on the midline, it's not going to show up as well. So, does that make sense to everybody? So, because then you're going to have, let's see, pharynx here. Well, that must be, actually, that's branchial tube, so your blood vessel's more that, there. Not the muscle, sorry. I'm trying. Tongue, you're in my way. There.
Okay.
Does that make sense to everybody? So, I mean, if I had another pointer, you've got, and you know with this from the sagittal section, or the cross section, this is sagittal, right, that those tubes are all kind of lined up one on top of the other, right? So you've got esophagus, then the branchial tube, then the ventral aorta, then there's tongue, and then you're going to have the inferior jugular under there. So, okay. Yep, that was the next thing, was inferior jugular, which kind of runs along there. There's a little bit of pink there, as you can see. Just little. Spinal cord, that's pretty easy in this guy. It just is right behind the brain, right? So you can see it there. spinal cord. Notochord's real easy, that one. Myomeres and myoceptas are a little bit harder to do on this guy, but myomere is the muscle tissue, right? And then the septa would be the lines in between, right? So this is your muscle tissue here, which is the myomere, and then the myocepta would be the lines. Does that make sense to everybody? Easier to see in the cross sections. We already saw the notochord. Intestine, fairly simple. That structure there, it also runs down there right between the gonad and the liver. Kidney, it's back here, right? You pull the gonad away, you see that clear tissue there? Not the pink, but the clear. It's kidney. Pleuroperitoneal cavity is just the cavity that surrounds. So if I just roll the body wall away, that's the cavity there. Think coelom, right? It's just in pleuro. It's kind of a misnomer, actually, because pleuro means lungs. These guys don't have lungs, but they do have peritoneum, and so that's where that comes from. I guess they're trying to equilibrate it to other vertebrates, but not so much. And we already saw the urogenital papilla back here, which is the back, more posterior structure, and then the anus is the more anterior. So you've got anterior, and then, so anus, and then urogenital papilla. Ta-da!